They cheered when my sister won the award, but no one realized I had funded the entire ceremony. The hall in downtown Los Angeles shimmered under golden lights as massive applause echoed gracefully off marble walls. I watched my sister Emily Carter proudly accept the crystal trophy with tears shining brightly in her eyes. It felt like a long dream born from years of silent struggle, late nights, and relentless, tireless determination. I held my breath, quietly anticipating the precise moment when my hidden role would emerge in everyone's mind. My journey to this night began 5 years ago when I inherited a modest but promising investment portfolio. I had no intention of stepping into the spotlight, preferring to remain anonymous in boardrooms and private meetings. While Emily pursued her passion for environmental science at UCLA and Columbia University, I quietly built my business. I structured a charitable foundation with one simple mission: support young scientists and innovators who desperately lacked resources. I personally directed millions of dollars toward vital need-based scholarships, state-of-the-art laboratory equipment, and groundbreaking international research collaborations. Despite my contributions to scientific innovation, I never attended award ceremonies and avoided press coverage at all costs. So when I received an invitation to sponsor the Excellence in Environmental Research Award, I saw an opportunity. My team negotiated terms with the organizing committee in a discreet suite at the Ritz-Carlton in Santa Monica. They warned me presenting the award would invite scrutiny, but I insisted on anonymity to test work's impact. I signed the agreement with a single pen stroke, sealing my promise to remain unseen throughout the ceremony. On the evening of April 11th, I arrived by blacked-out sedan at the Los Angeles Environmental Awards Gala. A team of 20 volunteers welcomed guests in tuxedos, guiding them past floral displays toward the grand stage. I watched a sea of well-wishers in designer gowns and sleek suits, their smiles measured and applause rehearsed. Emily looked radiant in a midnight blue dress, clutching her statuette like a lifeline amid a sea of strangers. My pulse quickened as I considered the moment of revelation I had orchestrated with meticulous, calculated, absolute care. The ceremony began precisely at 8 p.m. under a crystal chandelier that cast dancing reflections across vaulted ceilings. A hush fell when the host, Marcus Delaney, stepped onto the stage, his voice resonating through gilded arches. He spoke eloquently about innovation and perseverance, setting the stage for the evening's most remarkable, anticipated, long-awaited moment. A video montage highlighted Emily's journey, from childhood experiments in our garage to published studies in peer-reviewed journals. The audience erupted in applause as her face filled the screen, tears glinting like stars in her eyes. I felt knot tighten in my chest as Marcus Delaney gestured toward the golden envelope resting on pillow. The room collectively fell deathly silent, every camera lens shutter clicking and fixed on that simple, unassuming object. My mind raced with possibilities about how the evening would transform once I finally stepped into public view. Emily stood off stage, her breath coming in shallow bursts as she waited for her sister to join her. I felt torn between pride and apprehension, knowing that revealing my identity could potentially completely overshadow her triumph. My heart pounded like a drum as Marcus Delaney slid the envelope open, his smile enigmatic beneath spotlights. He cradled the parchment inside, unfolded it under the lights, and raised his steady gaze toward expectant audience. A hush deeper than before enveloped the room, as if everyone present collectively held their breath in moment. Marcus cleared his throat, then began to read Emily's name into the microphone before pausing the last word. My pulse quickened as I realized the long-anticipated moment of truth had finally arrived. At that instant, I suddenly rose from my seat at the sponsor's table, every eye turning toward me. A collective gasp rippled through the audience as I walked onto the stage in a tailored navy suit. The microphone felt heavy under my fingers, its cold metal grounding me in the reality of sudden exposure. Emily's eyes instantly widened in disbelief as she saw her stunning sponsor walking into the spotlight beside her. A tremor ran through my voice as I spoke Emily's name, and the audience leaned forward in anticipation, I paused briefly, scanning faces in the crowd, from the hopeful, eager students to influential patrons of science. My announcement echoed. Emily Carter has demonstrated commitment to environmental research, but I hesitated before revealing my name. The tension in the room was palpable, every heartbeat synchronized in that extraordinary thick silence hanging between words. I took a breath so deep it felt like inhaling the hopes and dreams of every young scientist. Then I spoke my truth into the microphone, my voice steady despite the whirl of emotions inside me. I said, I am Rebecca Carter, sole chief sponsor and founder of the Carter Foundation for Environmental Progress. Shock immediately rippled through the crowded hall, faces shifting rapidly from admiration to disbelief, incredulity in an instant. Whispers erupted the hall as I explained my decision to remain hidden until that pivotal moment of recognition. Emily looked at me, tears blending with her smile, a mix of pride and confusion on her face. The applause hesitated momentarily before resuming, then building into a thunderous standing ovation that shook the entire hall. The morning after the gala dawned with an unusual quietness in my downtown Los Angeles loft. I sat at the window ledge, cup of black coffee warming my hands, replaying every moment of last night's crescendo in my mind. It wasn't just the audience's astonishment when I revealed myself as Emily's sponsor. It was that momentary pause, that collective intake of breath before the applause washed over us. I wondered whether the foundation I built to empower young scientists had grown too powerful in a single night. Emily called me early, her voice trembling with excitement and fatigue. I could hear her pacing in her apartment across town, the click of her heels echoing against hardwood floors. She thanked me again for stepping into the light, then paused. She told me she felt proud but also conflicted, as if my revelation overshadowed her personal achievement. I reassured her that her award reflected her own brilliance. The foundation's role was simply to provide the platform she deserved. Her silence at the other end of the line spoke louder than any words. By mid-morning, messages and emails flooded every inbox connected to the Carter Foundation. Journalists wanted interviews, board members demanded a statement, and Emily's colleagues from UCLA asked to meet. I drafted a concise press release, emphasizing our mission to support scientists and clarifying that the gala's sponsorship was an isolated decision driven by my desire to honor Emily publicly. I pressed send with a mix of relief and apprehension, uncertain how the narrative would shift now that my anonymity was gone. Late in the afternoon, I met with my closest advisors in the Foundation's conference room, a sleek space with glass walls overlooking the city skyline. Our legal counsel flagged potential conflicts of interest, noting that my familial connection could cast doubt on the award's impartiality. Our communications strategist warned of backlash from other donors who felt blindsided. My financial officer stressed the importance of preserving donor confidence. I listened attentively, nodding, but internally I wrestled with the complexity of balancing transparency and personal loyalty. As evening approached, I headed to Emily's apartment to see her in person. I found her on the living room floor, surrounded by scattered papers and unopened correspondence. Her laptop screen glowed with dozens of news articles, social media posts, and congratulatory messages, each highlighting our family connection. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed but bright. She admitted she felt overwhelmed by the sudden spotlight. I guided her into a hug, feeling the weight of her emotions transfer to me. I promised to help her navigate the aftermath. That night, we dined at a small Italian bistro in Santa Monica, seeking refuge in rustic decor and soft candlelight. Between bites of handmade ravioli, Emily confessed her fear that peers might now question her credentials, suspecting her success was bought rather than earned. I reached across the table, took her hand, and reminded her of her years of rigorous study, late-night lab experiments, and published papers that stood on their own merit. She nodded, tears welling again, but this time from relief rather than uncertainty. Back in my loft, I pored over our foundation's records, reflecting on the implications of last night's reveal. My decision to sponsor the gala had been impulsive, driven by pride in my sister's achievements. Yet the unveiling had rippled through our carefully constructed world of discreet philanthropy. I realized I needed a long-term strategy to address both internal and external perceptions. I drafted a framework for increased transparency in our grant-making process, proposing volunteer review panels and public impact reports. The following morning, I convened a meeting with the Foundation's board, presenting my vision for greater openness. Some members applauded the initiative, eager for enhanced credibility. Others bristled at the idea, worried it would dilute our competitive edge. During the discussion, I shared reminders of our founding principles: cultivating curiosity, supporting underfunded research, and empowering voices that otherwise might be silenced. By the end of the meeting, we agreed to pilot a quarterly impact and integrity newsletter, detailing our funding decisions and outcomes. Meanwhile, Emily prepared to defend her work at a National Environmental Research Symposium in San Diego. She invited me to accompany her, wanting my support but also fearing whispers behind closed doors. I agreed, determined to stand by her side. On the train south, we reviewed her presentation slides, each detailing innovative methods to purify wastewater using nanotechnology. I offered feedback on clarity and flow, mindful that her audience would include both seasoned scientists and potential funders interested in practical applications. Arriving at the conference center, we found a bustling corridor of poster sessions and keynote speeches. Emily's poster attracted a steady stream of attendees, curious about her techniques and eager to learn more. When she noticed a group of skeptical-looking researchers whispering, she steadied her nerves and invited them to ask questions. I watched from a distance, admiring her confidence as she fielded technical inquiries with precision and grace. I realized that her expertise would silence any doubts far more effectively than my sponsorship ever could. That evening, during a networking reception, I mingled among academics, industry leaders, and philanthropists. Some attendees approached me directly, congratulating me on Emily's award and asking how they too could support innovative research. I shared the Foundation's mission, emphasizing our commitment to impartial grant-making and rigorous selection criteria. Several expressed interest in joining our review panels or attending upcoming charity luncheons. I felt a renewed sense of purpose, recognizing that my role had shifted from secret benefactor to public advocate. After the reception, Emily and I walked along the San Diego Bay, the city lights reflecting on the water's surface like scattered diamonds. She thanked me for standing beside her, acknowledging that our collaboration, financial, emotional, intellectual, had brought her to this pivotal point. I told her that watching her grow into a confident researcher was the greatest reward I could imagine. We paused under the open sky, letting the cool breeze carry away any lingering doubts or fears. On the train ride back to Los Angeles, Emily leaned her head against my shoulder, exhausted but content. We discussed plans for her next research proposal and dreams of launching a community lab in her hometown near Fresno. I listened, my heart swelling with pride and anticipation for what lay ahead. In that quiet moment, I understood that our journey was far from over. The decision to step into the light had set in motion new challenges and possibilities, weaving our personal and professional lives together inextricably. We arrived at Union Station as twilight settled over the city. The train's whistle echoed through the platforms, a signal of endings and beginnings. As we disembarked, I felt a renewed commitment to the Foundation's mission and a deeper appreciation for the journey we shared. Part 2 had tested our resolve, reshaped our roles, and illuminated the complexities of visibility and recognition. Ahead lay a third and final chapter, where every choice would shape not only our legacy but the future of environmental science itself. I woke before dawn, unable to quiet the ideas buzzing in my mind. The apartment felt empty without Emily's presence beside me, the air too still after our long conversation on the train platform. I dressed quickly in muted colors, determined to spend the day in reflection and preparation. The Foundation office awaited, and I needed to finalize the grant guidelines we had drafted earlier. Coffee cooled on the kitchen counter as I locked the door behind me, the city's morning hum greeting me in its steady rhythm. Stepping into the foundation's lobby, I paused to glance at the polished brass plaque bearing our name. It felt heavier now, a reminder of responsibilities magnified by recent events. My assistant, Carla, greeted me with a sympathetic smile, her eyes reflecting the whirlwind of press requests and donor inquiries that had piled up overnight. She handed me a thick folder labeled Draft, Code of Conduct, and I nodded, acknowledging the work ahead. I felt resolute, channeling my energy into positive change rather than dwelling on uncertainty. In the boardroom, the atmosphere was charged with urgency. Members filed in, some offering subdued congratulations, others returning to business without a pause. I began by thanking everyone for their dedication and reiterated our mission to support deserving researchers. Then I introduced a finalized impact and integrity framework, outlining transparent application processes, conflict of interest disclosures, and annual independent audits. I watched reactions carefully. Some faces softened, while others remained guarded. Still, no one interrupted, and by the time I finished, I sensed cautious approval. Emily joined us midway through the meeting, slipping into an empty chair at the back. She offered a shy smile when our eyes met. I felt a surge of warmth. Inviting her to speak, I provided a brief introduction of her as not only an award recipient but also a collaborator in refining our policies. Her voice was calm and assured as she shared how fairness and clarity had shaped her experiences as a researcher. She emphasized that respect for merit should guide every funding decision, and nods of agreement rippled around the table. After the meeting, donors trickled in for private consultations. A longtime supporter asked directly whether my familial tie with Emily had biased our choices. I met his gaze firmly and detailed our new procedures, offering to connect him with our advisory panel members for candid feedback. Another potential donor expressed concern about negative press overshadowing scientific progress. I assured her that our commitment to transparency would strengthen credibility rather than diminish it. Despite initial skepticism, most left feeling more confident in our direction. By late afternoon, I felt drained yet invigorated. I visited Emily's lab at UCLA, slipping quietly into the corridor lined with fume hoods and high-tech spectrometers. She looked up from her microscope, surprise flickering across her face. We shared a quick embrace before she guided me to her newest setup, a pilot prototype for water purification using bioengineered algae. She explained each component with precision, highlighting our foundation's support for equipment upgrades. Watching her command the room, I felt pride offset by a newfound humility. Sunlight slanted through the lab's narrow windows as Emily demonstrated the algae's filtration cycles. I asked questions about scalability, safety testing, and potential environmental risks. Her answers were comprehensive, evidence of her thorough research and unwavering dedication. When she finished, she looked at me expectantly, seeking approval. I nodded enthusiastically, reminding her that the real hero was her ingenuity. We laughed softly, sharing a quiet moment of sibling solidarity amid beakers and test tubes. That evening, I held a virtual town hall for grant applicants, hoping to model the openness we now championed. Faces filled the grid: students, postdocs, independent innovators, all eager to learn how to secure funding. I walked them through our revised application portal, answered questions candidly, and invited honest feedback. Some attendees voiced lingering doubts about favoritism, but others praised the clarity and responsiveness of our team. I resolved to continue this dialogue regularly, recognizing that trust is built over time through consistent action. Later, alone in my office, I drafted an op-ed for a leading science journal. I wrote about the importance of integrity in philanthropy, shared our lessons learned, and called on other foundations to adopt similar transparency measures. I included concrete data projections on how clear policies could increase application diversity by 30% and reduce administrative overhead by blending independent reviews with digital platforms. I signed my name at the bottom, exposing myself fully to public scrutiny for the sake of accountability. Before submitting, I called Emily. We spoke simply, without fanfare, acknowledging how far we had come. She told me her upcoming field study in Central California would test the algae filters in rural communities. I promised full support from the foundation, offering resources and community connections. We ended the call with laughter, marveling at how our personal bond had evolved into a powerful partnership shaping scientific progress and ethical philanthropy. At home, I poured a glass of red wine and reviewed the op-ed one last time. The cursor blinked beside the submit button. I hesitated, recalling the moment on stage when I stepped into the light for Emily's recognition. That choice had unleashed both challenges and opportunities. Now, as I prepared to stand by public words in print, I felt ready. I clicked send, watching the screen confirm delivery. A weight lifted from my shoulders, replaced by anticipation for the conversations that would follow. I closed my laptop and looked at the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. The lights glowed like distant constellations, each representing hopes and dreams of countless researchers. In that vast expanse, I saw our foundation's name shining more brightly than ever before. I realized our journey had transformed me, from a hidden sponsor into an active advocate, and Emily from a solitary scientist into an ambassador of transparent innovation. Together, we had redefined what it means to support discovery with integrity. As midnight approached, I prepared for a new day filled with press interviews, policy workshops, and Emily's field expedition planning. I felt a deep sense of purpose, knowing that every decision we made would ripple across laboratories, boardrooms, and communities. Our legacy was no longer just financial grants but a living testament to honesty, collaboration, and the enduring power of family. The spotlight no longer frightened me. It guided me toward the impact I always intended to achieve.